and welcome to this episode of Kennedy Saves the World. So, this week for the Daily Mail, I wrote about the incredible shrinking pop star, Justin Bieber. And, I know we've seen a lot of pop stars who look like they're fresh out of rehab in their jammies and bathrobes, looking disheveled as all get out, from Matthew Perry to Nick Nolte. But there's something different about Justin Bieber. Now, with every celebrity marriage, especially with people that attractive, everyone's going to say that their marriage is in trouble. And maybe it is. Maybe these two are just a couple of blowhards who only care about themselves and have a really hard time sticking it out for the long run, even though they have a baby. But we have to look at the timeline of Justin Bieber's recent descent and also look at how that coincides with not only the baby, but Sean Combs, his former mentor, being locked up. So in January 2024, Bieber looked great. He looked happy. He was posting about having a great new year. His wife was expecting. We didn't know that yet. And then in August, she had the baby. Well, in September of last year, that's when he started a pretty deep descent. And that's also when Diddy was arrested. So if you look at those things, all the things start coming to light that sort of coincide with the gossip that's coming out of the federal investigation into Diddy's proclivities and the things that he has been charged with, everything from violence to prostitution and trafficking. And you start to realize that when someone has a baby, a couple of things happen. One, you feel so incredibly protective in a way that you never knew was possible. You never knew that your heart could live outside of your body, and you never knew that you could look at something so innocent and precious and not only love it so much, but want to protect it utterly. And what it reminded me of, the trouble that he was having, the expression that he had of the difficulties that were going on with him emotionally, it reminded me of that documentary Leaving Neverland about the alleged victims of sexual abuse from Michael Jackson. And their stories were very explicit, but the thing that they all had in common was the extent of their trauma didn't hit them until they had kids. And that was when they really suffered the most anxiety, the most guilt, and, the most post-trauma they had since they were abused as children, because it made sense to them that, here's something you want to protect. And so many of them felt, why didn't my parents protect me? Now, we don't know what happened between Diddy and Justin Bieber when Diddy was his mentor, when he was grooming him for superstardom. What we do know is when Justin Bieber was just 15 years old, he was a tiny person. He should have been with his parents. He should have been with his team. He should have been protected from someone who was talking about making every 15-year-old's fantasy come true, and how Diddy was given custody of Bieber for 48 hours and they were going to go full buck crazy. That was the quote. And I'm sure you've seen the video. You've seen the two of them cavorting around, and, Bieber's got a big smile on his face. And not long after that, they were both on Jimmy Kimmel together. And Kimmel seemed kind of disturbed by what he was watching. And, he's like, there's something weird about this relationship. So he asked Justin Bieber, like, what do you guys do when you're together? And Diddy cut him off and said, he knows not to tell on Big Brother Puff and talk about what we do. And it's like, that was disgusting on its face. Like, you don't have to have 120 victims to come forward saying, Sean Combs sexually abused me, men and women, minors and adults. But, let's say a tenth of that is true, or a fraction of that is true. Then all you can do is think about, and again, we don't know what happened or what didn't happen between Sean Combs and Justin Bieber.
Don't go anywhere. More Kennedy Saves the World right after this.
What we do know is that Justin Bieber had two crappy parents, Patty and Jeremy. Jeremy basically abandoned Justin and his mom, took all the furniture, and left them to twist in the wind. She was a teenage mom, didn't have any money, and, she had already suffered childhood sexual abuse by her own account. So then the dad leaves. Jeremy Bieber was actually in county jail the day Justin Bieber was born and really didn't emerge until Justin became very, very famous. And then all of a sudden, he was there at the time that Diddy was hanging out with Justin. And that's when Justin became estranged from his mom. And, God only knows what was happening, but you know that it was traumatic because Justin Bieber has talked about the trauma. In a documentary that he did in 2020, he was in tears talking about wanting to protect Billie Eilish from all the things that he had been through. And he said he would never wish what he had been through on anyone. And he was so deeply emotionally scarred from that. So I look at this and I see a guy who's looking at his kid, wanting to protect his infant son, and thinking to himself, where in the hell were my parents? And, sort of being re-traumatized by the fact that he was essentially neglected and abandoned and left out there to fight the wolves on his own. And if you look at it that way, it's actually very heartbreaking that, God knows what happened to him when he was a kid, but it was enough that he has taken his pain into adulthood. It is still very active, and there is absolutely a correlation between the birth of his son, his maturation, and his realization of, the people who let him down. And hopefully, he holds on to his marriage. He regains his footing and his mental health, and he's able to be a present parent, and he can let go of some of the guilt and some of the shame from whatever fallout happened to him because of his time with Diddy. It's all sad. It's all gross, but, the guy deserves a shot to be a good dad because Lord knows he didn't have one. This has been Kennedy Saves the World. I'm Kennedy.
Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app.
Oh, go ahead and leave me a review while you're there. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
You've been listening to Kennedy Saves the World on the Fox News Podcast Network.